I'm here today with Father Sean Coley of the Diocese of Lincoln, Nebraska, where he's the head of the Family and Life Office. Is that what it's called, Father?
That's right. It's the Office for Family Life and Evangelization.
Okay, fantastic. And tell us a little bit about yourself before we begin.
I've been a priest for 9 years. Grew up in Michigan, spent some time in the Army before I went to the seminary, and spent my first 4 years in parish ministry and also teaching high schoolers theology of the body. And then the bishop sent me to Rome to get a graduate degree in marriage and family.
Okay.
And then when I got back, I started to work on our diocese chastity curriculum. And then very shortly after that, I realized that I had to start addressing the issue of pornography, and especially pornography in young people, because it is such an obstacle to receiving the love of Christ in our lives. And then since then, I've met you, and we've been together at a couple of conferences speaking on this issue from different perspectives. So.
Great, thanks. Yeah, in today's episode, I guess, I wanted to talk a little bit about dating and engagement and what to do if you're dating someone who's looking at porn, how significant this should be in maybe the marriage preparation as you lead up to marriage. Should a guy even tell the girl, or the girl even tell the guy he or she's struggling with porn, and that sort of thing? Because I got a lot of young adults who come to the site, so maybe just start wherever you want. We'll go from there.
Okay. It's really interesting that you asked that question, because I have at least 3 college-age guys that are coming to me for help right now because their girlfriend referred them.
Okay.
And there is this dynamic with young people today that they don't mind talking about the fact that they have a problem with this. I mean, some of them probably do still have a lot of shame around it, but I've had at least these 3 cases where the guy told his girlfriend, I've had a problem with pornography, and the girlfriend said, okay, you need to call Father Kilcawley, or you need to talk to the chaplain and get one of these accountability groups. You need to do something to start healing that, because no girl should ever want to marry a person or should put themselves in a position where they do marry somebody who's addicted to porn still.
Well, that's a good point. I imagine most women aren't like these women who've referred their boyfriends to you. I don't know. I guess most women might take one of 2 positions. Either they would be totally turned off by it and leave, or else they would try and justify it and say, well, maybe it's not a big deal after all. So what would you say to that position where the woman tries to justify it and wonders maybe even if she should ask him if he's struggling? How important is that conversation in the beginning of a relationship?
I think that to a girl who says something like, all guys do this, it's just part of our culture, I would say you deserve better than that. You deserve somebody who's willing to give you his whole heart. You deserve somebody who seeks you out as a refuge in their life and that wants to give themselves to you completely. And you don't deserve somebody who, when they're stressed or bored or lonely, turns to porn instead of you. Mm-hmm. And I think that young women should really stand up for that and demand that from a guy who wants to date that.
I'm sure there's a lot of guys who might be listening to this and might feel a little hurt because I know this was my case when I was looking at it. I wanted to stop. I knew it was bad. But if I had heard what you just said then, I would have feared, well, I don't even know if I can ever be free of this. Does that mean I have to wait until I never look at pornography again, whatever that means, until I can begin dating? What would you say to that guy?
I would say to that guy that he needs to be doing whatever it takes in order to stop, because it is possible to stop. And for most people who struggle, I know when I was in college, when I struggled, I always thought that, I can do just enough to stop without going all the way. I can get as much information from this priest or this counselor, but I'm not going to tell them everything about my life, and then I'll be able to fix myself with the rest.
Okay.
And I think that part of being a man is being willing to do whatever it takes in order to give yourself completely to your wife someday.
Do you have a specific kind of time period? If you've looked at pornography on a regular basis, say once a month, then that's too much. You shouldn't be dating. Do you have or is it even a good idea to be that rigid about it?
So I don't think it's a good idea to be that rigid about it. And I would say when I'm talking to young people that a lot of times they're already dating when this comes up, and then they have a decision to make, because it's hurtful for the girl as well. And but I wouldn't say like you have to be free for a year before you can date or anything like that. It depends on how serious their addiction is. But I do think the end goal is that I'm completely free of this at engagement. I mean, that's especially if I'm talking to a young person, a high school person, a college person, they should really want to be free of this by engagement, because engagement means I'm going to give myself completely to you,
Mm-hmm.
and that I don't have anything else that is going to interfere with this. Now, some people are going to be at different stages of recovery at that point in their lives, and some people are probably already in engagement and they still haven't taken care of this yet. But where we are in our culture, we've waited so long to respond to this as an issue that we kind of are fighting on all fronts right now.
Yeah.
But it is possible to stop. It just, some people need to go to an SA group. Some people need one-on-one accountability. Some people just going on Covenant-Eyes accountability software helps them stop.
Yeah.
But all of us have to find, what is it that I need in my life to help me to break free of this so that I can be free to love.
I presume your advice would be the same to a young guy who might not look at porn or masturbate, but his girlfriend does?
Yeah, I would say to that girl that she should seek all the help that she can get in order to get recovery in her life. And somebody asked me the question once, like, do I have to reveal all of this at the beginning of our relationship?
Yeah.
And I would say no. Like, if somebody asks you to coffee, you don't like say, well, I used to look at porn and I've been with this many people.
Yeah.
But eventually people get to a point in their relationship where they have sort of this is my history talk.
Yeah.
And involvement with pornography really should be included in that this is my history talk.
And at that point,
how much always hide it from each other.
And at that point, how much should be shared?
I don't think that anybody, and this was the same with husbands and wives when they have a problem, like, I wouldn't recommend sharing, all the details of everything that I've ever done.
Yeah.
But I used to have a problem with pornography for this long. I've been free for this long. It's part of my life. It was part of my life. It isn't anymore. Maybe that's shared. I think part of it too is discerning, okay, is this going to be an obstacle to intimacy that they don't know this about me?
Yes.
Because being loved means this person loves me and they know all of everything about me, including the fact that I used to look at pornography. And the fear of people who have addictions is if somebody really knew everything about me, they would reject me. They wouldn't love me. And a long-term relationship can't last when that fear is present.
Mm-hmm. I imagine you counsel, not counsel, but prepare engaged couples for marriage. Do you bring up this topic of pornography? And if you do, I bet you that's rare for them. I bet most engaged couples, when they go to pre-marriage preparation, the priest or the pastor doesn't bring up the topic of pornography.
Yeah, in the past, I'd say we haven't brought it up. Right now, I'm in charge of Engaged Encounter for our diocese, and so we're trying to figure out ways to subtly bring it up as we go. One of the things we do is we show the clip from Fireproof where they have sort of the big blowout fight in the kitchen.
Yep.
And then I'll ask questions like, how long has the wife known he looked at pornography? And it's obvious she's known for a very long time. But when did she actually bring it up? Not until this big fight.
Yeah.
So we talk about sort of complacency and like how this can be a festering wound in the relationship as they go forward. And we also promote Covenant-Eyes for all married couples, just as a way of letting yourself be known by the other. And that's another way it comes up.
I know the guys at Covenant-Eyes who take the phone calls, customer service people, say that they're always getting phone calls from men or women who say, I'd like to cancel my subscription to Covenant-Eyes because I'm now getting married. Why is that a bad idea?
I would say it's a bad idea because if you need to be accountable, you need to be accountable. It also sort of implies that whatever pornography did for me in my life, now my wife's going to do for me.
Wow, good point.
And I don't think the sexual relationship between a husband and a wife is going to be the same as that relationship with porn. It should be something much more beautiful and giving and loving. And I encourage all couples to be on Covenant-Eyes. just because every man has a right to know how much his wife is on Pinterest.
Yeah.
Every wife has a right to know how much her husband's on Sports Illustrated.
Yeah.
Because the internet in general is a place where we hide from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And a place where we start to seek refuge in somebody other than our spouse or other than our Lord.
Yeah. If someone's listening to this right now and they're currently in a dating relationship and they think, oh, goodness, well, I do look at pornography from time to time. Is Father Sean telling me I need to go break up? What would you say to that?
I would say they don't need to break up, but they need to stop hiding their behavior from the person that they're dating, because it is an obstacle. And lots of people think, oh, this is just it's a personal thing. It doesn't impact my marriage. And I've worked with couples that thought that while they were dating, and they thought that while they were married, and they thought that until it actually was a problem.
Yeah, interesting.
It doesn't impact our life until it really impacts their life. And all of a sudden they're in an emotional affair, or they're having a real affair, and their inability to be intimate with their wife catches up with them and ruins their marriage.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time to heal that, and they can heal it now and not have to go through that pain later as a married couple.
I might be a pessimist, Father, but I suspect that, most people getting married today have looked at pornography, and I might say, that most, maybe I'm just really pessimistic, but most men who are getting engaged today are looking at pornography. Do you tend to share that belief?
That is pretty pessimistic.
It is.
But I'm 40 years old, so I'm a little bit older than you. And so the internet was invented when I was in college. The web browser was invented. And my roommate was a computer science major, and he's got this new web browser, and he says, hey, look at this. And the first thing I ever saw on the internet was pornography.
Yeah.
So I think anybody under 40 has seen pornography.
Yeah.
The question is, how far down that road did they go? And what did they do to break free? Sometimes I've talked to young people that they looked at pornography in freshman high school, sophomore in high school. Their dad caught them. They had a good conversation. They stopped.
Wow.
A lot of the young men I work with, we start talking and we talk about being known and vulnerability and real relationships. And they go home and they tell their mom, I've been addicted to pornography for this long. And they're incredibly brave. But when they do open up to their parents, and especially with high school students, when they open up to their parents, it invites this healing into their life. And they stop hiding their behavior, and it breaks through their shame. Mm. And so I think that, I think probably all seminarians have seen pornography, and everybody going into engagement has seen pornography. And we should start asking them, when did you see pornography and when did you stop? That should be part of our preparation.
Yeah, that's an honest question. Speak a bit about, so two more questions. The first would be how necessary is it that a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a fiance be compassionate with the other who might disclose to them that this is something they're caught up in?
Yeah, I think if we're talking about two people who are in love, right?
Yeah.
And being in love means that I'm willing to be known by this person, and I want to know everything about this person. And so just as it's important for that person to disclose, it's also important for their boyfriend or girlfriend to be a safe person that they can disclose to, who's going to be a compassionate ear. And I know that's very difficult, because sometimes with a young girl, I would say you don't need to be dating a person who looks at pornography.
Yeah.
Maybe you do say, I want to date you. Just call me in 6 months after you've been in this group that's going on campus.
Yeah.
And I'll wait for you.
Yeah.
To call me, because I want to date you, but I don't want to date a guy who looks at pornography. If it comes up in a loving relationship, I think that it is important to both be loving and compassionate, and also make sure that we have the proper standards and boundaries for ourselves. Because being loving doesn't mean putting up with a boy who looks at porn.
Yeah. Would you share with us then maybe a couple of things that a young man or a young woman who's caught up in porn right now ought to be doing to begin taking these steps to be free of it?
I think the minimum necessary, or the minimum stages would be, I'm going to be accountable about all my online activity. I'm going to find an accountability partner and put Covenant Eyes or another accountability software on all of my computers and be open about my online life. Then they might need to find somebody in their life who has more sobriety than they do. Because sometimes, two young people, they'll both decide to support each other, but they're both just as stuck. You always need somebody who's a little bit farther along than you.
Yeah.
And to meet with that person every week and to talk about how things are going.
Okay.
I had one young man who was struggling every single week. Every single week he was falling. He went to SA, a 12-step group, and he had 2 weeks of sobriety like that.
Wow.
Went to meetings every day at lunch.
Good for him.
And so I think those are all good first steps that they can take to find a good spiritual director who understands them, that they can talk to, and they might need to get a counselor.
Okay. Many people often wonder, should I use my fiance or my boyfriend or my girlfriend as my accountability partner? What would you say to that?
I think that depends a lot on the relationship. So sometimes if the girl has felt very betrayed by the whole thing, she might not want to be the accountability partner. She might just want to know that he's doing well and he's progressing, but she doesn't want to know every single website he ever goes to. I think that within a marriage, I think it's good to be open with each other and use accountability that way. But I don't always advise that a husband who's just disclosed the problem has his wife as the accountability partner.
Okay.
Because she's going to feel like the policeman over his internet life, and that can interfere with their relationship.
Right.
So that would be where I'd start, especially in college. I would just find a group of guys and say, hey, let's form a group. We're going to meet every week. We're going to say how our week was and read this book or that book and work on this together.
Do you think the fact that we haven't seen a lot of progress in healing is that we just haven't been having these open dialogues with each other? And maybe now that we do that, we're going to begin to see more healing?
I do think so, because at our Newman Center at the University of Nebraska, they've been running these groups called Sons and Daughters of Mary for about 3 years. And the idea was, we're going to bring in these guys and we're going to do the total consecration of St. Louis de Montfort. And because we do that and we do the spiritual program, they'll stop looking at pornography.
How's that working?
Well, a couple of years later, some of those guys came to me for individual help. And my approach is to be very open and frank and just talk about, why are we looking at pornography? What's going on with you? Let's figure that out.
Okay.
So at the Newman Center, they just changed their format, and now they have, instead of having a spiritual group, they just have groups for guys who look at pornography. And the priest meets them in confession, refers them into these groups, and 2 weeks into the school year, they've got 6 groups of about 8 guys going on campus. And the chaplain's seeing a lot more progress happen at a faster rate because they're really having genuine friendship in their life. They're able to share their lives with other people who will accept them, and they feel supported in trying to break free from this so that they can be free to have good, solid, loving relationships.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much, Father Sean. To those of you who are watching, you can learn more at theporneffect.com. Father Sean Kucoli is actually one of our experts, and you can write in your question to him and our other counselors who will be able to respond to your question. God bless you, and thanks so much.
Thanks, Matt.